Hi, this is Justin from Money Bootcamp. Today I'm answering one of our Friday personal finance questions of how much should I put into my pension? This question has come from one of my planning clients who is 2 or 3 years into the workforce and wants to know a little bit about pensions and how much he should start putting in just to start with. This is a bit of a hard and a boring subject for a lot of people when they start working. So it's great to be able to just dig into some of the basic concepts, which we'll do today, and hopefully you'll feel a bit more confident in that you know what you're doing just to start off. One of the easiest rules to get into your head for this is that if your company offers a pension and they give a match, you should take it. You should do whatever you have to do to get that match. What a match is that a company will have a rule where they'll say if you put in a certain percentage of your wages into your pension, they will match that. So a typical setup would be your company might say if you put in 5% of your income into your pension, we will match that and put another 5% into your pension. This is great for a couple of reasons. The first reason is you've just given yourself a 5% raise by doing this. You've basically taken some free money that you wouldn't have got before and put this into your pension. If you don't opt in for this, you're basically saying to your employer, no, I would not like a 5% wage increase. Considering that, if your company does an employer match, you should definitely think about putting in whatever you need to do to get the match. Some companies are really generous when it comes to this. I've seen some companies that will double what you put in up to 5%. So if you put in 5%, they'll put in 10, making your total contribution to your pension 15%. So if you're in a company that offers this, it is really advisable to just put in whatever you can that they will match up to. After this, it's important to know what you can afford. So this is great to lay out what your expenses are, see what money you have at the end of the month, see what you can afford to put into your long-term planning, because pensions is a long-term saving goal. You could be saving 20, 30, 40 years ahead of where you're at now. That's great because the sooner you start, the less you're going to have to put in as a percentage of your wages, because it's going to have more time to grow and compound within your pension. If you can afford to put in 5, 10 or 15% into your pension, that is great and you should really think about doing it. If you can make the trade-offs required to be able to put in that 5 or 10%, if you can do it comfortably, it's a great idea. You need to look at your timeline when considering how much to put into your pension. If you've just started working, it can be a great idea from the get-go to put in 10% as a minimum. There's a general rule in finance that if you put in 10% from when you start working, say at the age of 20, 22, 23, whenever you start working a full-time job, if you put in 10% for your entire career, by the time you retire, you should have a very good pension pot. Obviously, there's a bit more to consider in this, but as a general rule, if you have 30 to 45 years putting in 10% of your wages into your pension, you're going to be in a great position. If you have a shorter timeline than that, so say you've actually been working 10 or 15 years, then you're going to have to consider putting in more. I've often talked to people and heard of people who have only started paying into their pension between the ages of 40 and 50, and it can be really hard on them because instead of putting in a smaller amount like 10%, they end up having to put in 30 to 50% of their income into their pension just so they're going to be able to survive in retirement. This is not an ideal situation, so if you start earlier, you can be in a great position. If you are not at the very start of your career, if you're not in your early 20s and you haven't started a pension, don't fret. It's great if you can start it in the past, but the next best time to start a pension is today. So if you haven't previously set up your pension, make sure you get your ass down to HR and set it up today. If you start later, you are going to have to put in more. So make sure that if you can, you start earlier. If not, start today. If you only start thinking about putting into your pension when you're 35, be aware that you're going to need to put in more than 10% so that you're going to be able to build up a sizable pension for when you retire. Another important point to think about is your tax-free rate. So pensions have great tax incentives involved. We've talked about this before, but basically the idea is that you can put in your income before you get taxed. So if you put €5,000 into your pension in a year, you put the full 5,000 in from your salary. Whereas if you were to put that into a savings account, you would be taxed on that €5,000 and you would only be able to put in the after-tax amount, which could be 4,000, 3,500, whatever your tax rate is, you'd only be able to put in the after-tax amount. Whereas with pensions, you can put in the pre-tax amount. So it's actually a great tax benefit going in. Up to the age of 30 in Ireland as of January 2018, you can put 15% of your earnings tax-free into your pension. This is an absolutely great benefit, and if you can afford to do that, if you have a company match that will lead you up to that by putting the amount in, it's a great thing if you can get to that limit. As you get older, the amount you can put in tax-free increases. From ages 30 to 39, this increases to 20%. From the ages of 40 to 49, this increases to 25%, and it increases again in periods as you get older and older. The reason for that is because they are really encouraging people to put into their pension, and as you get older, you often need to put in more and more if you haven't started early. So this is why I'd really encourage you, if you can, to start early. You can put in a much smaller percent. You're going to get your tax benefits, and then you're going to have that amount of time needed to let it grow comfortably. The last and most important point about your pension is to just start. If you start, you will be able to improve on where you are. Even if you're putting in a very small amount this year, you can try and increase that next year. Hopefully you're going to get salary increases with time, and even just by starting your pension and putting a small amount in, you'll hopefully increase that with time as your salary increases, and if you're able to afford to put in more, you can then increase the amount you put in as well. It's important to get into a pension habit. So if you start working and you get the opportunity to put into a pension, even if it's only a small amount, it's great. If you put in 5% of your income into your pension, you should do it. It's a great thing to do. It's a great benefit to have that your employer will support. There's great tax benefits, and in the long run, when you get to retirement, you're probably not going to be able to work anymore and earn an income. So you'll need that pot of money there to support you and provide you with an income when you're no longer working. This has been a Friday financial question from Money Bootcamp. If you have any personal finance questions you would like answered, please send them our way and we'll try and answer them as soon as we can. If you like this video, please like and share with anyone you think it'd be helpful for. This has been Justin from Money Bootcamp. Learn money, live better.